Welcome to this explainer. Let's jump right in because while looking into the 2026 data analyst landscape, I stumbled across a massive salary discrepancy hiding right in plain sight. Seriously, today we're going to dig into the data and see exactly why adding just one specific skill to your toolkit can absolutely skyrocket your pay.
Look, it really makes you wonder, right? How is it even possible that two professionals working at different companies, holding the exact same data analyst title and having identical years of experience, can have a $50,000 gap in their base pay? I mean, at first glance, you'd think it was just a giant HR typo, but the data proves this is happening literally every single day.
And this whole mystery is perfectly captured by a real-world case study from Corey One's 2026 placement data. So picture this. On one hand, you've got a senior data analyst in Dallas making $108,000. Their daily toolkit, mainly Excel and a standard SQL server warehouse. But on the other hand, there's another senior data analyst out in Costa Mesa ringing in $138,000. Their toolkit, the modern data stack, specifically dbt and Snowflake. That is a cool 30 grand difference for the exact same job title. Why? Well, it's pretty simple. The market pays wildly different rates depending on the specific tools you use to solve problems. Okay, let's look at section 1, the baseline expectations, or what we call oxygen skills. So, to actually understand how to snag that premium pay, we first have to understand the floor. When we look at typical base salary bands for 2026, the variance is just wild. Entry level starts around $58,000 and scales up to about $75,000. But check out that mid-level tier. It spans anywhere from $75,000 all the way up to $100,000. And according to the data, this mid-level bracket is an absolute war zone right now. Hiring is moving incredibly fast here. Average searches are closing in just 18 days, and throwing down aggressive counteroffers, it's just standard practice. But to even get into these bands, you absolutely have to have your baseline down. And that brings us to those baseline requirements: basic SQL, standard Excel, and a solid grasp of visualization tools like Power BI or Tableau. We call these oxygen skills because, well, you need them just to breathe and get your foot in the door. They literally keep your resume from suffocating in the interview process. But, and this is a huge but, having these skills doesn't command a premium salary. Pretty much everyone applying has these. If you want to push to the absolute top of those salary bands we just looked at, you are going to need a multiplier. Which brings us to section 2, the multipliers, and why one skill boosts pay. This is the core of it all, guys. Multiplier skills. These are the specific proficiencies that literally shift you into an entirely different talent pool. Honestly, I was genuinely shocked by this number. In markets like India, the data explicitly shows that fresh analysts who are proficient in Python earn 38 to 48% more than their peers who primarily just rely on Excel. Let that sink in for a second. You could have the exact same years of experience, be living in the exact same market, but that one single skill, moving from a standard spreadsheet to a programming language like Python, acts as a massive, immediate multiplier for your starting salary. But hey, it isn't just Python. Let's look at SQL and see how this builds on itself. Remember earlier when we said basic SQL is just an oxygen skill? Well, deep SQL tuning is a multiplier. If you're the kind of analyst who can take a clunky 90-second query and rewrite it so it runs in 6 seconds without breaking the output, you are saving the company a massive amount of compute time and money. That specific skill instantly adds an $8,000 to $12,000 bump to mid-level offers. The market is absolutely desperate for people who write efficient code, not just basic select statements. And this leads us directly into what I think is the biggest trap in the current job market, the analytics engineer. So this is a role that heavily utilizes modern stack tools like dbt, Snowflake, and semantic layers. But here is the massive problem. Companies are frequently mislabeling this exact highly technical job as a generic data analyst. If you possess these premium multiplier skills and you accept a role that's only budgeted for a standard data analyst, you are practically volunteering to be underpaid by roughly $30,000. You absolutely have to know what your skills are actually worth out there. It all really boils down to this fundamental reality. The premium skills are the ones that change which talent pool you're in. If you take literally anything away from this explainer, let it be this. Do not just stack 5 shallow, beginner-level skills on your resume. You are infinitely better off picking one premium multiplier like dbt, advanced Python, or deep statistical testing and going incredibly deep on it. That is how you stop competing on price with a sea of generalists. All right, let's pivot to section 3, the context. Industry and location. Because let's be real, skills aren't the only multipliers out there. We have to layer in the undeniable realities of the broader market. When you break down median total pay by industry, software and tech just completely dominate, easily pushing past $98,000. Healthcare sits comfortably in the middle, while manufacturing sits quite a bit lower, typically around $72,000 to $88,000. What's wild about this is that you could be doing the exact same analytical work, using the exact same tools, but the industry you choose to do it in can shift your earning potential by up to 38%. Meaning, if you jump from a fintech firm over to a manufacturing firm, you should definitely expect a pay cut, even if your title doesn't change one bit. And despite the whole narrative that remote work has completely flattened the world, location still absolutely matters. Traditional tech hubs like San Francisco and Seattle still carry massive premiums, paying 30 to 40% above the national median. But what's super exciting right now is that secondary hubs like Austin, Denver, and Atlanta have added $8,000 to $12,000 to their median base salaries over just the last 2 years. They are catching up incredibly fast, and they offer a fantastic mix of high pay with a lower cost of living, which is just a huge opportunity for a lot of us. So let's bring it all together in Section 4, your 2026 career roadmap. Okay, let's make all this data actionable with a tailored roadmap. Depending on where you're at right now, your next best step is highly specific. So if you're an entry-level student, honestly, a degree just isn't enough anymore. You need a real public portfolio of projects using public datasets to prove you can do the work. If you're a career switcher, your absolute secret weapon is your past domain expertise. Go apply for analytics roles in your old industry. That insider knowledge commands a massive premium. And finally, if you're a working professional right now, your fastest path to a promotion and a pay bump is adding Python or a cloud platform to your current stack. Now, you might also be wondering about certifications, right? Well, the data shows they definitely are not all created equal. Just between us, a foundational cert like the Microsoft PL300 for Power BI is fantastic for clearing those automated HR resume screens, especially at the mid-level. But the specialized certs, things like the Snow Pro Core for Snowflake or a DBT Analytics Engineering certification, those actually move the needle. The supply of analysts holding these specific certs is much thinner than the actual demand, so employers are happily tossing a $5,000 to $10,000 premium at candidates just to get them in the door. Which leaves us with one final, absolutely crucial question to ask yourself as you map out your own career path. Are you competing on price as a generalist, or are you commanding a premium as a specialist? Remember, the market is more than happy to pay you generalist wages for generalist work. It is entirely up to you to add that one premium multiplier skill and completely change the conversation. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Now go out there, use this data, and maximize your value.